Yo, what's up? The American military is a force to be reckoned with, and no branch of our military is as feared as the Navy. But back during the Revolutionary War, our Navy was ass. Like, if I'm being honest, our naval encounters against the British should have been a complete wipeout if it was not for one man, John Paul Jones. So John Paul, no Jones yet, that happens later, was born into Kirkcudbright in Scotland. He started his naval career on a ship called the Friendship, which was a slave ship. So for the next couple years, John Paul Jones ferried around Africa and the West Indies, until eventually, John came to the conclusion that slavery is not that cool, and instead decided to work on a ship called the John. Basically, during one journey inside the John, the captain of the John died, but lucky for John's crew, John was able to fill the role of the captain and successfully sail back to Scotland, where John was awarded for his ability to lead the John. And so the owner of the John made John the new captain of the John. And all was going well for John. He now had his own crew and his own ship, and he was able to carry out a couple successful voyages. That was until, hey John, what's good man? Up top. Okay, yeah. Hey man, quick question. And I'm just throwing this out there, but I was wondering if you'd be okay with paying us a little earlier next voyage? Sure, man. Here, I'll get your payment right now. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, man, I was worried about you getting mad if I bought this up to you. It's really cool you're not mad at me or so. Oh, you're mad. I'm mad. John Paul Jones was arrested when he got back to Scotland for this, but he posted bail and got out. Although now everybody in Scotland hated him. Not because he killed a guy for asking for early pay, but because the guy he killed was the son of a rich and influential Scottish family. The aftermath of this whole situation was so bad, the governor of the entire province basically told John to leave for his own safety. So he changed his name and got onto another ship called the Betsy, where he killed another guy over wage disputes, which is the second time he screwed over one of his employees to stay as the 1%. Which is so damn American, it brings a tear to my eye. Anyway, after getting his double kill, he didn't even bother going back to Scotland, instead hightailing to Virginia. It's around this time that John Paul Jones' half-brother died, leaving a huge estate in Virginia. So John Paul decided to pick up some new real estate, also pick up the middle name Jones, which means we finally get to the name John Paul Jones, and also starts drilling this hot piece of ass. It's also around this time when America decided they weren't going to have it with those dirty Brits anymore, and started to arm themselves, and being in need of a strong captain for the new American Navy, John Paul Jones stepped up to the plate. So John Paul Jones took command of this ship called the USS Alfred, and he put in a lot of work for the newly independent Americans, taking over 16 British ships in only 6 weeks. He was also the first to fly a prototype American flag, which, I couldn't think of a worse flag to represent us separating from Britain. Despite all the wins that John was taking though, John Paul Jones was such a dickhead to work with that nobody in the American army actually wanted to deal with his shit. So they decided to send him away to France. And I quote this from Wikipedia, to do anything to help the American cause. Which just sounds like when your little brother wanted to play a game, but you knew he was going to drag everybody down and not make it fun, so you made him the referee so he felt involved. Anyway, it's in France where John Paul Jones started to become best friends with Benjamin Franklin, and also a lot of 1700s Parisian thoughts, but mainly Benjamin Franklin. It was also in France when John Paul Jones started to brew a genius military strategy against the British. So since John Paul Jones was in France, which was just a stone's throw away from England, he figured he could just build his own navy in France and then go destroy the unsuspecting British Navy right at their HQ, which up until this point was absolutely raw-dogging the American Navy. So he pitched this to Benjamin Franklin, who gave John Paul Jones the go-ahead. And so the stage was set. One big win was when John Paul Jones was able to take control of a huge British ship named the HMS Drake, which was one of the few naval wins that the Continental Army had over the British. After John took control of the HMS Drake, he let this guy called Simpson ship it back to the French port. But then Jones and Simpson had an argument, which caused John to court-martial Simpson, which basically means he got put under arrest and detained on HMS Drake. Although a later consensus showed that pretty much all evidence points to John Paul Jones being a big dickhead. But he also was John Paul Jones, so they just kind of let him off the hook and do whatever. It's at this point when John Paul Jones was given control of a new ship named the Bonham Richard, which along with 4 other ships was sailing around in the North Sea when it came across a big-ass monster of a ship named the Serapis. Now like I said, the British ships were extremely beefy, so when they started fighting, the British had the upper hand. But John Paul Jones figured out if he could board onto the Serapis and have his men kill the British Navy, he would be able to win through that. which is exactly what he did. That's a pretty big dub for him, although he did end up losing to Bonham Richard, which people now think happened because the other captains were so sick of John Paul Jones that they were trying to kill him, but they only ended up being able to sink his ship. Anyway, that battle against the Serapists solidified him as an American hero. After this point, America won its independence. And then John Paul Jones fought for the Russians, where he did the Minecraft YouTuber Classic, which is pretty bad, but no, yeah, it's pretty bad. Let's just move on. Anyway, that's the story of John Paul Jones. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like, it helps a lot. And yeah, man, bye.